All right. Happy Saturday, everyone. Um, Welcome back to Caribbean Diaspora Vibes. It has been the most amazing. Every week we say it's amazing, but I think this Saturday has been more amazing than a whole lot of Saturdays that we've seen, right? Because the weather is not too hot. It's what did we get up to today in Orlando? Not even sure if it was maybe high 70s, not too high.
Right.
No storms, no rain, just absolutely beautiful. Just God's grace, just saying, here's a little dash. Here's a little dash of this. You guys complain so much about it being cold and all of this, and we have to say we're thankful. We're
Yes.
thankful. So, thank you all for joining us on Facebook and at our Caribbean Diaspora Vibes. This weekend is all about love and romance and relationships and so forth. It's Valentine's weekend. We wanted to do a special forum, right, for Valentine's weekend. And I just want to say big ups to my co-host, Dr. Bavon Dabrio. You see representing her Antigua and Barbuda flag. Hey Bev, how are you doing?
Well, good evening. Good evening. Welcome back. And as Dana was talking about the weather, I've been telling everyone, I guess I bring the Florida heat to New York, right? Because it was hot. I was like, oh, I'm hot in here. So I guess that weather just transpired around. Yes, we did
Yeah,
have good weather. So,
yeah, we
yes,
definitely have to just,
awesome.
we have to give thanks whenever, even when it's raining, we have to give thanks. Even when it's thunderstorms,
Right,
we have
right.
to give thanks. But on such a beautiful day, we just have to recognize. Um, I'm going to introduce Pastor, and then you can introduce Beverly. Okay, I'm going to just say Pastor Raulston Nembhard, if I'm saying that correctly, is with the St. Paul Community Church, and he can also tell us a little bit about who he is in the community and the conversation tonight. But let me just say, my name is Donna Morton Morgan. I am the CEO and president of Caribbean American Diaspora Alliance, and our focus is to bring you weekly tidbits, information about community business, health, and wellness, and so forth. And we just thought it would be fit for Valentine's to tell you about healthy relationships. You see, we didn't just say relationships. Healthy relationships is still possible in 2022, people. Okay, so we have our guest tonight is going to tell you how to achieve that and how to maintain it. So I want to introduce Pastor Raulston Nembhard from St. Paul Community Church. Welcome, Pastor. Thank you for joining us on this busy weekend. We appreciate you sharing your time and your talents with us. Tell us a little bit about you, Pastor.
Okay, good evening, everybody, far and wide. And thanks, Donna and Dr. Bevan for inviting me to be here this evening. I really look forward to sharing on this very important subject, still in the midst of the pandemic.
Right.
Well, quickly, I came to this community over 20 years ago to the St. John the Baptist Episcopal Church. 20 years is a really long time because since that time I've retired. And I have not grown tired of ministry, but I've retired from active ministry. But we do have a small congregation that we do virtual worship and services with, and that's the St. Paul Community Church. And that sometimes we don't even want to use the word church because it suggests something else, and we need to get away from the concept of church as building or as an address. And see it as a community of people coming together and sharing together and worshiping God. But that's what we are. I am a trained family and couple therapist. I haven't done a great deal of that in recent times, I've done it on and off, but I'm trained, and right throughout my career as a priest, I have had to intersect with people at so many different levels in marriages, family life, and divorce, and all the other things. So I'm not suggesting that I have any great competence in the subject, but I've come across a lot of human emotions over the years, and I might have something to offer. But I'm very happy to be here, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so moving along, we also have Beverly Dabrio, who is going to be sharing the mic with Pastor this evening, talking about relationships. I'm quite sure Beverly is no stranger to us. She's visited us and blessed us on many millions of occasions. And we just thank her for her wisdom that she always openly shared to us, encourage us, even though, you know, we have to knock heads every now and then. That's what sisters does, and it's fine.
Yeah.
And it also maintain that balance that people needs to have, because come on in, you can't be yes all the time. You have to have someone that really loves you telling you no. And today, you know, we're going to learn about the balance of these things, of keeping healthy relationships. And Bev will tell you a little bit about her positive divorce courses, the books that she wrote in reference to building healthy families as well. Thank you, Bev.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys, for having me. I hope that I will be a blessing to somebody today. Even one person takes away something positive from what I have to share. Hopefully that occurs today. So we'll see as time progresses.
Okay. All right.
All right, guys. So we also want to let this, if anyone's watching on Facebook, we are also on Caribbean American Diaspora and Caribbean Rhythms Radio Network, right? So follow us there. So jump right in. So we know this whole love thing is really, I don't know, you know, people don't understand it. How do we, in this Valentine's weekend, right? We know that Valentine's weekend does not determine, it, you know, it's just a holiday made up by society. We understand that, right? But it's a great time to talk about maintaining healthy relationships. And I say healthy because it's important, because any and everybody can have a relationship, but healthy, it makes a difference. I think we all want that. So tell us, Pastor, how can we, or what are your tips for a healthy relationship?
All right. Let me say first that during the pandemic, our relationships have come under a great deal of assault. You know, things that we took for granted with the lockdowns that were forced on us and people were forced into their homes. A lot of relationships started to go astray, to fray and to be broken up. I sometimes characterize it as somebody going to the closet, opening the closet, and all the skeletons keep just rolled out. All kinds of distrust, all kinds of bottled up problems that were in the relationship. And people now having to face themselves and have to reckon with things that they never saw before. And that put a lot of strain on relationships, not to mention the tremendous loss in families, you know, where, you know, family members, especially for children, where parents died. It's amazing the number of children who suddenly became orphans during this pandemic. So relationships have come under a great deal of strain, and people sometimes wonder, what is it going to be post-COVID? And I hear people talk about returning to normal. And I sometimes ask myself, what is that normal?
What is normal?
What is that normal? What was normal before? You know, that you want to return to that. Because I think what the pandemic has done is to give us all a chance to recalibrate our relationships, to take a second look. We have been forced to either confront the things that we were hiding and to deal with the truth concerning where we are. And I think that that is where we're going to have to start first with, recognizing the truth of where we are in our relationships, especially in the area of trust, because trust is a basic foundation of any relationship. And there are so many ways in which that can be destroyed, and if, or at least, you know, eroded. And the question is that if we come to the conclusion that that is part of the problem that we're facing, then how are we going to deal with the rebuilding of trust that is necessary for, you know, rekindling, so to speak, the dying embers of so many of the relationships that we come across. I don't know if you want me to stop there or you want me to probably go a little further on that. All right, so if I do that, then the trust has to do with the whole matter of the integrity of one's word. You know, believing what the other person says. And I think that one of the big problems in relationships is that we sometimes give the impression that we trust the other person, but deep down we don't, because there are so many things that come into play that reveals how little trust you have in the other person, what the other person is able to do, the expectations that we have, and how we believe that these expectations can be met. And so we're gonna have to look again at, you know, the things that we have taken for granted, the things that are clearly not working, and trying to find some way in which we can, you know, begin to talk with each other in a very friendly way, I would say. I mean, communication is a very big subject, of course. I mean, how do we communicate? And that's a whole kettle of fish all by itself, because we know there are so many ways in which we can communicate, and the way in which many people in relationships communicate, you know, really leaves a lot to be desired. And that is something that I guess we can go into at some point. But, you know, the rebuilding of trust, you know, living up to our word, having the other person, my partner in the relationship, or even my children in the relationship, see me as somebody on whom they can rely, because my words mean something, and my promises mean something, and that they can literally hang their lives on it as well. How do we repair that, and how do we restore the foundations that are being eroded?
Dr. Bev, I mean, yeah, so trust is one of those things. I guess there are some deal breakers, right? And I think trust is sometimes one of those things that people can't get past. If someone abuses that trust, and then now sometimes when they say let's try, they can't get past that. What's your take on how to have a healthy relationship, Beverly?
Okay, so the a healthy relationship, first of all, let's think about who is your first love. When we talk about our first love, a lot of us think about the first person that we were attracted to, our crush, your high school crush, your junior high school crush. However, if you really think about it deeply, your first love is your caretaker, your parents. Those are the people who you learn to love first. You providing food, comfort, a sense of security. So those people are really the first people you love. So in terms of trust, that's where trust begins. Your mother or whoever was your main caretaker, sometimes your grandmother, that is the person who taught you how to love. That person taught you how to trust. And we learn trust through consistency. So if you promise something, you're going to fulfill your promise, right? I can depend on your word. I can depend on you to be there. Not only when things are good and we're celebrating, but you're also going to be there during hard times. So that's the first place we learn to love, and that's how we learn to trust. And we will carry that throughout our life. So on the other hand, if you're not consistent with your child, if you don't make
Bev,
your
I'm sorry, your
child
internet, I'm
feel
not sure.
safe, secure, comfort, if you don't meet your child's need, then what are you?
Yeah, Bev,
Excuse me?
internet is
Can you hear me?
no, your internet is a little unstable.
Yes, sir, it's
Hello?
choppy.
Yes, Bev, your internet is a little bit unstable. So we'll see if you can stabilize a little bit
Okay.
and then come back.
Next to me. So
She might
You
be
want me
away
to
from the
go?
Wi-Fi a little.
Yeah, you may have walked
Okay, so
too far.
I'm changing location.
Yeah, go ahead and change locations and come back. We'll continue the conversation with Pastor. Um, because
All right.
this thing
Can
is
you
so
hear me?
yes, but you're
Yeah,
still
keep
a
talking.
little, you're still not um
My, is it working?
no, your Wi-Fi is still unstable.
Okay, go ahead, continue the conversation.
I will tell you.
Yeah, this whole love thing,
Okay.
this whole love business, Pastor, is really important. As a personal development coach, I feel that we need to understand and we need to learn how to love ourselves. And
Mhm.
when we are able to love ourselves, and that's really through that's not a ego of, oh, I just think I'm all that. That's just knowing that you are a child of God, and having that personal connection with God, and knowing that you are blessed and favored. It's deep. But when you are able to have love and feel love, be love, then in any relationship that you have, it's easier to then transfer love, to extend love, especially in relationships. Because I think as women, especially, you know, we put a lot of demands on the man, right? We want that man to be able to be chop, chop, chop. We want that man to be showing this and and sometimes I think we put too much on that person to hold us up and to big us up and all these things. And I think we also need to learn that self-love is the most amazing thing connected with God. And then anything else is icing on the cake. The man is icing on the cake. Because sometimes that can trigger a relationship too, where we want that. If poor man, if he don't say I love you in 2 days, it's a problem. We are like, I noticed you didn't say this and that, and so I think that puts strain on relationships. And so, Bev, are you back?
Hello, can you hear me now?
We can hear
Can you hear
you.
me?
Yeah, we are
Try
hearing you.
speaking.
Keep,
It has a
keep
little
speak.
muffle. It has a little muffle. So why don't you switch space with me? Use my computer.
Yeah.
Unless it's the Wi-Fi, that's if she's closer to it.
She's close to me and I went and moved her, but then it's okay.
Not a
Come
problem.
on.
So yeah, relationships is a hard thing. It's the communication, all of that. First of all, the way women communicate and the way men communicate, first of all, we don't think that men communicate, right? And we can talk to a girlfriend and like, oh, yes, we understand, but for some reason we can't relate it. So it's like the whole Mars thing that y'all really from Mars.
Yeah, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, eh? That whole
Yes.
thing. But men do communicate. I mean, they may not be that verbal in their communication, but that because as we all know, communication is either verbal or non-verbal. And the men tend to communicate more in non-verbal terms, because one way or the other, whether you respond to what somebody says by verbalizing what is on your mind or you don't, you have communicated. And especially if you give a lady the silent treatment, and she's wanting to get, there's nothing that irritates a woman more than to know that she wants to get something from you. I've been wanting you to speak and let me hear what you think. What do you have to say about this thing? And she's met with that silence.
Right.
And that is really saying a lot. Even in that silence is not always golden.
Right.
There are times when you need to say what is on your mind so that the person can understand. But I will agree that men are not that given, let me say, to doing that. Women have a very deep sense of of thinking and analyzing things. I came across something some times ago. They had two brains. And when they showed the woman's brain, it had all kinds of circuits and all kinds of different things going through it. When they took the man's brain, it was just empty. And it is not to say that men's brains, I hope the men don't get at me for saying this. But it's not to say that men's brains are empty, of course. But it's just that we do not get that caught up in the thinking and the emotional things that women get involved in. And so that can be a way of driving a wedge between the way in which, both are able to communicate what is really on their minds, because of that deeper emotional level at which women really approach life and approach things, and which we men many times are not appreciative of.
Beverly, you were before your internet.
So yes, I was talking before, before my internet was interrupted. I was talking about your first love. And what I was saying is that most people think about their first love as being their first crush in junior high or high school. However, when you think about it more deeply, your first love is actually your first caretaker. That may be your mother, your grandmother, your father, whoever is the first person to take care of you. That person provided comfort, food, clothing, security. So that person is the first person who taught you how to have a healthy relationship. So that is how we build trust in infants. And I know the ability to love is inborn, but really love is something that we learn. The way to love is something that we learn, how to love someone. So on the other end, if your caretaker was not a good caretaker, or if you didn't have a caretaker at all, then basically you will have some struggles in life when it comes time for what we call romantic love with a woman or man, someone who you're in love with, that romantic love. You will have a lot of issues there if you did not have a positive relationship with your first love, who is your first caretaker. So that's what I was going to add to the conversation of trust and how we learn trust and love.
Now you mentioned something, and learning how to love. since we are a Caribbean-based forum, and we always, as women, you know, we sit around, we always talk about, and we're not gonna put Pastor under the bus or anything like this, but Pastor always talking about how men in different cultures seem to not be able to express love compared to other cultures. I don't know if you've heard of this because you're a guy. I don't know if anybody come and tell you this, but for women, we most of us, you can never say all, but most of us feel like men from the Caribbean, for example, they don't express, or they did not learn, and it's what Beverly said, they did not learn how to just express that love. um can that change? Because okay, we grew up in a culture where sometimes even mom and dad didn't really do that whole I love you, hugs, kisses, and all that stuff that we are used to now, right? So can that change? Can the relationship improve if you're in a relationship and the man grew up from childhood not really knowing? Can we be better at love?
You want me to go at it?
Yes, yes.
A woman can be, well, you talked about the Caribbean situation, and sometimes I hear people talk about going back to that we are from a plantation society, and it is because of slavery and the way that men were used as studs on the plantation to breed slaves for the owners and so on. That has come down through the culture, but I don't put a lot of store on that. I mean, human thinking and human relationships are very dynamic, and we've come a very far way. I would not say that, there might not be a residue of that around, but I don't put a lot of store on that. So I just want to set that aside. But the men are not too, at least the Caribbean men, as I've come to know us, are not too overt in our expression of affection to our women. I've seen that, and that has created some problems because we may expect a situation where we have to be that involved in getting the as if to get the person to understand, hey, we love you and we care about you. But it is in the practical expression of what we believe. We might not be able to express the affection as openly and overtly as the woman would want to have it. But she does expect that in the practice, if you say you love, in the practice of that love, do you respect me? Do I feel secure in your presence? Do you, and they're not asking for a great deal. They're not asking for a great deal outside of that respect and that security that you provide them, and that, showing them that you really care and that you can be there for them when they need you, even if you cannot express this kind of lovey-dovey type of affection. That's some of the things I've gleaned.
Oh, so I agree, because when you look at it, men and women are different in how we express things. So for example, being sad and being angry, it's the same feeling. However, women have a different expression of that feeling. So for when women express it, anger, it comes off, she may cry, it may appear as though she's sad, but that's the same feeling a man is having on the inside when he comes off as being angry. So in society, it's acceptable, it's expected for a man to show anger, and it's also expected on the other end of things for a woman to be sad or to show some sorrow. So not because he's not expressing it the way that we're expressing it, it doesn't mean he doesn't love you. We're more verbal overall, and men are more action orientated. So men are like, I did everything for her. Why she keeps asking, why do I have to keep singing this love song? But for us, all we want to hear is that romantic love songs, and we want to hear all those things in our ears. So it's just a difference of expression. But look at the practical, look at what he does for you in the practical. Do you feel love, secure, comfort? You know, is he helping you to have your needs met? Is he encouraging you in whatever you're trying to attain in life? So look at some of those practical things instead of just his words.
Right, and at the same time too, we have to understand that it's a two-way street, and that men crave affection as well. Their kind of brusque exterior may give the impression that they don't, and men don't cry and men don't. But as Bev was saying, you know, they feel deep within themselves and want that kind of affection as well. And sometimes the woman may not be that conversant with where they're at and to express that kind of affection to them. And so they may feel left out in not being appreciated in the way that they too want to be loved.
I love it.
Pastor, you touched on the word, my word for today. When I thought of this show, I was getting it together. The words that I came across in my head is sacrifice versus compromise. And because it's two different words, right? So I know the definition of them. Could you elaborate on those for us? Or I don't have a problem doing it, but could you elaborate on the relationship with those words?
All right, now I understand sacrifice, for example, is that it's a matter of denial. And there are certain things that you want to deny yourself so that, you know, things can work out, you know,
Right.
for the better.
So sacrifice is a word of one. It's one person making that switch.
Yes, make it right.
Versus
And
compromise.
denying oneself in order to make sure that
Yes.
things go in a right direction, let's say.
Yes.
And compromise, of course, is that it doesn't mean that you are not you're going to sacrifice your opinion, or you know, but you want, it's a kind of a yielding.
Right.
You yield, you know, to make the thing work. In other words, you step back instead of charging forward. You step back and allow the person some room so that they can be accommodated as well. And so you have a working out of the situation.
Okay, so it includes two individuals.
Yes, compromise, yes.
One person sacrificing something of themselves to make another person happy, versus in the compromise, we're both saying, let's give a little or get a little or something of that nature.
Right, each one willing to give something so that for the greater good of that particular situation.
And I just want, you know, people to hear that, because a lot of times relationship boils down to people losing the authenticity of those words, or what am I doing? What am I doing? Am I compromising? Because people use the word loosely. Oh, well, you have to learn to compromise. You have to, but maybe you already went over now to sacrifice. So it's different. You already draw that border. So, you know, I just wanted people to understand that.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because the whole business of yielding is something that we have not learned to do much in our relating with each other. And that creates a problem. You know, when you decide not to yield and think that your position, your opinion is sacrosanct and it is what it's all about, and I don't have time to listen to yours, you're gonna have problems. You must have problems.
Awesome.
We've heard about love languages, and I think Pastor, you touched on one, like practicing, like, so maybe that person is not able to express in words, but then they do.
Yeah, they're doing. You see it in action.
Yeah, you see it in action. Do we know any other love languages? Anybody know any other love language? Let me.
Came across them sometimes back. Gary Chapman's love languages.
You know, there's
Yeah,
different types.
yeah,
Beverly,
type, there's a type where the person love getting gifts. So their love language would be getting things. That's the love language.
Okay.
So they're more receivers. Is that what we're hearing?
They're more what?
They react to receiving.
Yes,
Right.
they
They
like
love
receiving.
only by
It's
receiving.
it's not necessarily something big or extravagant.
Right.
It could be a rose or a box of chocolate, but they like getting little gifts. It doesn't have to be extravagant gifts.
And the whole basis of giving is of gifts is a whole matter of being appreciated, and any little gesture at all can make that happen. You know,
Right.
and
Open this.
and I have
But I
cautioned
heard enough.
folks to be very careful about in their relationships sometimes when they expect big gifts, because big gifts can come as a kind of camouflage of other things that may be happening. You know, if somebody is misbehaving in a relationship, they may bring home, oh, a very nice diamond ring for you, or something like that, or necklace. And when they're really covering up a multitude of sins that are going on otherwise. So
Right.
one has to be very careful about gifts, and you know, because they can be given for exploitative reasons. But all of us want to be able to receive something, to get something. It's the whole basis
Right.
of relationships. It's reciprocal.
So I Googled 5 and I see there's 8 but 5. So
Yeah.
love language,
5 basic ones.
words of affirmation. So that would be in the usual, just being able to express I love you, I miss you, I need you, those kind of things, which we in the Caribbean world we call lyrics. Yeah. The person have a lot of lyrics. Or just because they're able to, right? And then
Mhm.
we have acts of service, so that's another one, and that's where the individual, male or female, will do things for you, right? Then yes, I see receiving gifts as a love language, and then the other love language is quality time. And so maybe that individual likes to have quality time. And then the other one is physical touch. So I think what's important is for us to understand that we're all unique. We're all unique, and I think usually we just think of the one way, and maybe just trying to understand your partner. How does your partner express love? Does he express it, or does she express it in which way? And so you guys kind of understand each other.
Yeah, I basically think it's a combination of those things for most people. It's not one or
Just
the
one.
other,
Right.
but it's pretty much a combination of things for most people. So like you said, you just have to look at the individual and spending time together, eventually you learn what the person likes and what the person doesn't like.
Right.
Because really, it shouldn't take a great deal for somebody to really feel that you care about them or that you love them. All you're doing is validating them. And as Beverly saying, all of those words are, relationships can have been narrowed down into 5 categories or 8 categories.
Right.
And that's why perhaps I never really took on to these love languages and these kind of technical ways of defining people's relationships with each other.
Mhm.
Just let the thing roll, because there are so many aspects to, validating people, making them feel appreciated. As a matter of fact, one of the greatest yearnings of the human heart is the desire to be appreciated. And if your partner can understand, really know that you appreciate him or her, I would say a good 60% of your problems are over. Because the person is gonna feel validated all the time. You don't have to be worrying about finances and all that sort of thing, because you're working together to make sure that is going in the right direction. You're working in seeing that the children are taken care of.
Hey.
there's a sense of security. The person feels that he or she matters. And if you can convey that feeling to the person that you, especially your wife or your husband or your significant other, that you're breathing in his or her face every night, and that person cannot feel that sense of security, then a lot of things are gonna go awry. And one of the first things that tend to go awry or to the curb is sexual problems that develop. Because if persons cannot feel, and as people sometimes, well, I've said many times that good sexual behavior in a relationship starts long before they get to the bedroom.
Right.
The bedroom is just a consummation of it. But if you're not going on too well in your life, in all of these areas, validating the person, making the person feel comfortable and welcomed and appreciated and all of that, and then you want to think that you're gonna have a glorified sex life, forget it. It doesn't work.
Right.
It's a composite of a lot of things. I noticed he didn't mention sex as one of the love languages, and I wonder, and those languages are coming from Gary Chapman's book. He was the guru. I think they sold over 20 million copies of those books, and they're still on the New York Times bestseller list after 10 years. People really took on to them. So I'm not trying to, put that down and say, those languages are not necessary, but we have to be careful that we do not become too technical oriented when it comes to the expression of love.
Right.
Let the thing flow,
I love it. Let it flow.
Okay. So,
if it can flow.
let it
so many
flow. So
obstructions.
let me pick up on let it flow. So, okay. So talking about what we haven't spoke about, which is romance, intimacy, sex, let me put it that way.
I opened the door.
Yes, you did. Thank you. So basically, when you meet someone and you're attracted to that person, that's when your hormones are flowing, right? You open a floodgate and your hormones are flowing. You have an increased dosage of dopamine and serotonin, and those things make you feel like getting intimate. They make you feel like hugging and kissing, and we know the other part of it. So when you meet someone at first and you're attracted to the person, a lot of that arousal is there, and the pleasure is increased. That's because our hormones are flowing. Those hormones are also the same hormones that decreases bad feelings like sadness or loneliness or pain. Those are the same hormones responsible for decreasing those things. So imagine what stage you're in. So I say that to say this is a comfortable, easy, enjoyable stage when you meet someone. A lot of times this only lasts for 3 months. Sometimes it could last longer, a year, 2 years. But this is what we call the honeymoon stage of falling in love. It's basically like being in the Caribbean, like you're on a honeymoon. Everything is perfect. So if you think back to your perfect island, being on the beach, that's where we at. Nothing can go wrong in this stage, right? But after this stage is over, and like I said, it can be 3 months, it can be a year, it can be 2 years, right? After that stage is over, where do we go? We go to the reality stage. And this is a stage when you begin to realize that she's not perfect and he's not perfect. And you couldn't hear him snoring before, but all of a sudden his snoring is obnoxious, right? So everything bothers you, right? Because your hormones are decreasing, everything is bothering you. So this is also the stage where you're going to have a lot of conflict, right? This stage is going to decide whether you make it or whether you don't make it. So you're fighting, you're complaining about everything, you're unsure about where your relationship is going to take you. You're also looking at other people's relationship. If you like social media, you're looking at celebrities, you're looking at your friends put up stuff on Facebook. So you're comparing your relationship to other people's relationship, and you're wondering, why isn't my relationship perfect? Well, sad news is no relationship is perfect. If they're telling you that on Facebook, they're just trying to make you jealous. It's not true. Relationships take work, right? And if you're gonna get to the third stage where, let's say it's it's a committed stage, right? The third stage, or it's a committed stage. So if you're gonna get to that stage, you're gonna have to get through the second stage, understanding that no one is perfect and no relationship, regardless of what you see on social media, no relationship is really perfect. So if you get through those conflicts, if you don't break up, you're gonna take it to the next stage, right? So the third stage is the stage of commitment, committed love. So here's where you should start talking about marriage, right? Because you've been through it, you got to know the person, you got to know the person's flaws, right? They got to know your flaws. So now you're talking about, are we ready to make this thing last for a lifetime? This is actually the best stage. And when you're in this stage, it's not like all the other stages are gone. So every now and then you will revisit the stage of conflict, right? We know that even if you've been married for 50 years, you're going to go back to some sort of conflict, and hopefully you'll go back to some sort of romance, right? So hopefully the romance doesn't leave, the attraction doesn't leave. Hopefully those things stay in the third stage. But what we have in the third stage is all the things that we need. We have that commitment, we have that security, we have that taking care of each other, we have that forgiveness, we have that learning, to compromise that we spoke about. So in the third stage is the stage where we really hit the home run.
Can I just ask, Bev, what's the age group at that third stage?
Oh, there's no age group for the stage. It's just how much your relationship is progressing. So mostly we'll find older people in that stage because they've been together for a longer time.
Okay.
So most older people are going to be in that stage because of the years they spend together. But you can, if you started your relationship at 16, you could be in that stage by 30, you could be in a committed relationship that's going to last forever, or even earlier than that. But the warning here I'm giving is, don't get married in the first 3 months. That's really like an addiction state. I think people who keep, some people like going from one relationship to the next in a few months. I think they're kind of addicted to that first honeymoon stage. It's such a beautiful stage that you could want to visit back and back and back. And every time you're with someone new, you get to be in that island Caribbean state.
Right. And there's if you're really gonna have longevity in your relationship, you have to really spend time to know your partner before you really do run ahead and get married. And that is something that many people don't seem to do nowadays. You meet somebody and you have a very good sex life, and all of a sudden we want to get married and we're going to live together forever, and that doesn't usually work out. I wanted to say something about, I know we're running against time here now, but I just wanted, unless we can, right. One of the unfortunate things about sex in relationships is that we tend to use sex as a kind of marker of a good relationship. It becomes a substitute for real love. And if we can, be very good in bed and have a good time and a hilarious sexual relationship, then we tend to think that, hey, this is love. But you know, love is something much deeper than that and transcends any kind of sexual encounter. It may be that if you have a very strong sexual relationship, that it could be indicative of a healthy relationship, could be indicative of a healthy relationship. But if it is just about the physicality of the experience, and there's nothing deeper beyond the mere encounter of having that time together in bed,
Right.
and there's your whole spiritual, emotional, sets are not engaged in the respect that I talked about earlier for that person, then, as Bev was saying there, as you move on into these stages, and especially that last stage, if it was all about the physicality of the person and the sexual prowess and all those things, and that begins to wane as life becomes, as you get older,
Right.
what is there to hold that together? What is the glue now? If it was all about that and the sexual encounter defining what love is. I think that is something that couples have to, and persons have to look at in their engagement with one another. If it's just a matter of having a good time with somebody, then you need to probably, if it's just about that, then you might want to consider very seriously whether you want to engage that person for a long-term relationship.
And I think that's because also society puts the markers out there as, so if that's not happening, then you're done. And it excludes.
You see it on Netflix and all over the place.
Right. So
that's how it is. That's how you do it. Just have a good time.
Right.
And but there is a seriousness to all of that. If you're going to really engage somebody for the long term and then really have a healthy relationship, because there's gonna come a time when you're not gonna be able to really carry on at 65 as you did at 35. And I'm afraid that there are too many men, especially, who think that they can carry on at 70 because they have the assistance of Viagra, Cialis, or there are these aids, and that they can carry on, and then they get frustrated and all that because the body is telling you something else.
Right. And we have sicknesses. We have people developing cancer, different illnesses, and that throws. So you could be in your early 40s, even 30s, and thing health-wise come up. So how do you then? So all these things, it's important to understand that it's not just about that, the sexual. When we see women or men, pictures of a partner that's handicapped and things like that, those are perfect examples that, okay, that piece is not happening, but they're still in love, they're still showing love. So it's just the different areas. Now, one thing I know with relationships is that sometimes, especially women, we're guilty more so, is we tend to talk to our friends more about our personal life and and I think it's something that we need to be aware of to stop. Go to a therapist. If there's something going on in the marriage, I mean, if you have a mom or someone that you're close to, I'm not saying don't ever talk, but Sarah, Michelle, Laura, all your girlfriends know everything that's going on in your household. It's not the best idea. It's not a good idea.
Right, and there's something else I wanted to just say quickly about the whole sexual encounter. People need to understand, at least we ought to realize that the sex is not mere copulation. It's not a mere question of a penis meeting a vagina or whatever ways people express their physical sexuality. It is deeper than that.
Right.
You're caught up in who the person is, and you have a strong spiritual sense of who that person is. And there's gonna come a time when it really just will not be able to copulate.
Right.
even as you said, at 30 or 40, you are on medication for some reason and you just can't lift it. And there's no amount of prayers that you're going to offer up that's going to raise it. What do you do then? You know, okay, you know, what do you do then? You know, when that can't happen?
Right.
You're going to get angry with your spouse. Oh, it's you. And the men are not always going to want to take the blame. You know, they're going to say, oh, it's you. You're not helping me. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. You know, I've come across situations like that. And you have to really remind the men that, you know, it's not about her. It's about your thinking and, you know, and trying to work through it. So these are things that people, you know, and I tend to stress the sexual aspect of it because I know that that is central to relationships and that is central in people's minds, that if I'm performing at a high sexual optimum, then the relationship is healthy. And one needs to understand that there are down times and that it can still be very healthy,
Right.
even though you're not expressing yourself physically in that way.
Right. Because you could have really crazy sexual energy, and then there's that disrespect and all of that. So each person has to kind of look into the relationship and know that it's not just, it's all about balance. I think it's all about balance.
Yes.
You know. So the one other tip that I think I have, as people, as you said, Bev, going through the different stages, right? Because in that honeymoon stage, it's easy. Everything just flows. It's easy. And then as you wane off, then you start to look at, oh, that person's problem, that their faults, everything. And so for me, as being married 8 years, but this is my third marriage, I always like to tell people, and something that I have to renew in my spirit every day, to praise, to look at the good things and the good.
Have one string worries.
Look at the good qualities of the mate, male or female, because we as individuals can easily just criticize. Da 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 da. And sometimes we do forget what led us, why we were attracted to that person, whatever it is, the qualities. And I think, you know, sometimes even when people are making that decisions to divorce, if they would take the time and say, okay, what are the negatives and the positives about the individual, but definitely focus on the positive. Give thanks for the positives. See the positives, because anytime that we start to focus on just the negative of anyone in any relationship, it's just gonna, it's like it just grows, right? And so that's for anyone that's out there listening right now. I think write down, because sometimes we may have 2 negative things that just bug us, but the person have 10 good things, but we're willing to throw it all away for the 2 negative things. Now, if it's an abusive situation, that's different. But so we have to also learn to kind of look, because we are not perfect. They are not perfect. So look at the positives in the individual. And I think it'll take you back into that honeymoon stage when you start to do that, because then you're like, okay. So like now I remember, because when you're in the critical stage, you're going to have an attitude. And we women, you know, we're not going to talk, first of all. So once we stop talking, it all kind of comes out. So if you start to have just, you know, as you go to sleep, as you pray, pray for the other person, pray for the mate, pray for yourself, pray over the marriage, speak and declare good things over the marriage, over the individual, and start to focus more on the good. And somehow it just really melts and it just transcends. And then the person now, the mate, kind of picks up, oh, she likes me again. she looks at me favorably again versus she can't stand me and all this kind of stuff, because it's kind of like it's a dynamic. It's like dominoes, that how we act to the person, then they act to us, and it's just this, so those are my tips from my personal relation. Stop talking to too many family friends about the situation, because wherever
Exactly.
focus goes, energy flows anyways, and then focus on the good things about the individual.
And you're right, because it's not everything that needs to be commented on. And sometimes we sweat too much of the small stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to, allow people, their own space, so that you don't make a mountain out of a molehill for every issue that you have to confront, because those things start small, but they have a way of spiraling into larger issues that sometimes break the relationship.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Dr. Bev, I know I guess you switched phones, so your internet connection is not the best
No,
right now.
no, she has my
She's on her iPhone.
So yeah, she has my situation. Oh, you're back.
I
You're still
Yes,
choppy. Yeah, you're
You're a little
choppy.
choppy.
Yeah, you're no good right now with your internet. So and
I think we have one full dialogue and
no, we're still not hearing you, Dr. B.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still not.
I'll be back.
Yeah, I mean, this subject is always, and I love the way, Beverly, how you mentioned how it's the honeymoon stage, because we know that when we're vacationing, right? Everybody always want to stay wherever they go vacation. Oh, this is perfect. I can live here forever. But could you,
Yes.
after about 2 weeks in that tropical, beautiful place, you start to complain, and I think that's what happens in relationships in that honeymoon phase. It's just like the person is perfect, and then, like you said, after a while you start to notice flaws, that maybe 30 days, 60 days, and sometimes people make decisions, sometimes pregnancy happens, all within that honeymoon stage, and by the time the man is gone, by the time the woman is 6 months pregnant, the man is gone. They hate each other, you see. So there's something that happens, or some fog or something in that time frame. I don't know if it's 30, 60, 90 days, and I think that's where people should wait. Give yourself that little time to come out of that newness, and find out more about the person, about the person's religion, rearing of children. All these things causes divorce. Just how are we going to raise the kids? Which religion? Things like that. And so I don't think we get to know people enough, because we do think that just because I love the person, we don't know that the person has 50 million child support liens. That can make or break.
Yes.
Right? So we need to get to know each other more and understand that there is that honeymoon period that we all go through. And then, like you also said, that some people get addicted to going through that honeymoon, because they realize, oh, 6 months, all right, it's done. So let me hop over here to a newness, and they get that new high and all of that again. But maintaining a healthy relationship is daily work, daily commitment, being able to express love, communicate. If you don't speak it, then you show it. And it's a balance of respect,
Right.
affection, and all of that. So final word from you, Pastor.
Right. I at the risk of opening another can of worms, probably it's not worms, but another can. Let me put it, could be Calalorac or What do we make of unconditional love? Sometimes I hear people say, I wanted to love me unconditionally. And I've been wondering about that recently, and wondering whether human beings can really love unconditionally. Because the very nature of human relationships is that they're mutual. There's a mutual reciprocity. You do something, and I'm expecting that something is to be done in return. And that is the basis of relationships. So sometimes when people say that they want you to give everything and love me without any kind of conditions, that in itself already is a non-starter, because I don't think that you could, deep down in a person's mind, that they can be in a relationship and they're not looking for something in return in terms of the reciprocity of the relationship. I believe it's only God who can really love unconditionally, pure and complete, without expecting anything back. So
Parents,
I just
yeah.
raise a point.
Yeah.
Yes, Beth?
Parents, I don't think whatever our kids do, I think that love is just there, right? No matter what.
Yes.
But as a spouse, yeah, I think there's always, I will love you, yeah, as long as you don't cross this line. Now, your line can be a different line than anybody else, but as long as you don't cross this line. So yeah, I think it's
So, so there are already inbuilt conditions in the whole process in terms of what people expect.
So what I think, you can have unconditional love, even for children and for your husband, wife, significant other. It's pretty much the same. You can have unconditional love for your children or your significant other, but it doesn't mean that if it's a husband, whatever, it doesn't mean that you have to stay married to that person who's abusing you.
right.
But you can still love the person. It doesn't
Of
mean I
course.
have to be in a relationship with you to continue to love you. So I can give you my unconditional love, but it doesn't mean I have to put up with you. Same thing with children. I can give you unconditional love, but that doesn't mean that there are no requirements for you. There are still requirements for you. So I may love you, but I'll tell you, I don't love what you're doing. So I don't love the things that you're doing. And as a result, this is going to happen. So as a result, a divorce or a separation may occur, but it doesn't mean that I don't love you anymore. I love you forever, but we just can't be together. That's okay.
So the relationship then is conditioned by a certain number of things that you expect to have happen in the relationship.
Right. So the relationship is conditioned, but the love is unconditional. Doesn't mean you have to be with a person because you love him. That's
The love
my
is
take on unconditional.
the love is pure.
The love is pure. I love you forever, but I'm not gonna put up with this anymore.
Right. Which many relationships, we've seen many women in domestic violence or whatever it is leave knowing that they still love that person, but had to leave for the sake of the children or for themselves. So that's a very, very good point, that yes, that person could still love you, but sometimes you have to choose and make a decision for the betterment of the family or your children, your safety, etc. Yeah, lots of things are done out of love, even for yourself. We sometimes have to do things for others, children, whoever, because we love them. So it's definitely a wonderful subject, and communication though is really important in maintaining that relationship, because that's, I think, part of the problem is we don't talk enough. We stop talking because it gets hard, and so we just shut down. And once you shut down, then that space, things happen in that space. Someone else starts talking, someone else has the person's ear, things like that. So it's important to understand that it's a daily renewal. And people think that having a relationship, oh, I have a relationship, that's it. No, it's this empty box. And then it's you and your partner that fill it up. So when you are seeing the things on social media or whoever, you're seeing the couples and you're like, wow, they seem to be awesome. They are doing work. The thing is, we don't like to do a lot of work. We like this instant thing, like instant oatmeal. It's work, it's commitment, it's communication, it's talking, it's showing, it's all of these things, it's praying, it's refraining from telling your business to all of your girlfriends. It's all of that. So it's daily. It's a daily renewal. And maybe I don't think they sent out this memo for relationships and especially marriage that this thing is a daily, because you think you have the woman now, you think you have the man. It's a daily renewal. And if we look at it as that, I think each day of recommitment, it helps.
You have the platform.
All right. Bev, your phone is still off. So I think that was wonderful.
I am here. I am
Oh.
right here, Donna.
Okay, so
Hey,
your
good
last
evening, guys. Wonderful, wonderful. I have a little message because someone just pinched me and told me that their honeymoon stage is going on for 10 years. Do you know who
Okay.
said it? Do you know who said that, Pastor? I think you're the one who married them.
Okay, Beverly.
Yeah, her husband just whispered that to me.
Okay.
He was going to interrupt the show to make that special announcement.
All right, congratulations.
I love it.
So we bring you guys hot. We hope that you guys keep the heart right. Know when it's time to do, when there's time to move forward, or when there's time to embrace or correct our wrongs.
Yes.
Not just one wrongs, but it's our wrongs. Because if we got to make it right, it should be a teamwork. When we win, we say, I do, we do, right? So
Right.
it's part and it's equal. Also, the word sorry. We should have a part 2 and talk about the word sorry, because the word sorry, oh, tell me sorry, honey, and it smooths over. And I hate the word sorry because I like sorry to come from sincerity. Sorry
Right.
should come from the heart, not just to move forward. It should come knowing that I am not going to be sorry again for the same error next time around. A police officer once pulled me over and he said, tell me something, tell me anything, so that he doesn't give me a ticket. So I'm just saying what sorry does, okay? So we
Yeah.
need to make those sorries perfection, try to make them better. And when we say it, mean it with sincerity.
Yeah.
That's very important. I would like to leave those words with you guys as you bring in the next 2 days of that Valentine's weekend. And yes, ladies, we're going to have to do some compromising tomorrow for that game. You know how that go. So they put it right before Valentine's. So a lot of you, if you
Right.
don't be quiet, there'll be no love offerings.
Yes. Love it. It's all about maintaining. I love that. Maintaining the honeymoon period.
So I came up with a Valentine's message also. So my Valentine message would be, if you have a loving wife who's good to you, or if you have a loving husband who's good to you, don't give your mother-in-law a difficult time. You need to remember that his mother or her mother is the one who's responsible for you having such a great wife.
Okay.
So when you're celebrating Valentine's, buy a card for your mother-in-law, your wife's grandmother, whoever took care of her, whoever her first love is, or his first love. Please remember to tell the person, thank you for giving me such a wonderful woman to love, or wonderful gentleman to love.
Oh, I
Any
love
closing
that.
remarks, Pastor?
And if you have been in a relationship with someone, even for a year or more, and you have grown to really embrace that person with a certain degree of affection, that's the person, that is significant to your life. And the way that you're going to really build a relationship with that person that lasts way into the future is to really respect that person for whom he or she is, recognizing that we all are, we certainly are not perfect, that we're going to make mistakes. We're walking through a world with a lot of rough patches, and there are times when we will stumble. And if the person stumbles, reach down, pick the person up, brush him or her off, and say, we'll just keep going. And that's what's gonna last
How
a
long?
lifetime. I've been married quickly for almost 40 years now.
Blessings.
And every day you learn something new. My wife was just standing here and looking at me. So every day we learn something new about each other, because that's how it is. There are different stages, and I'm just wondering, how are we going to be at 80? We know what we were at 28 when we got married. Well, I was 27 and she 26, but different stages. What is life going to be in the next 10 years and so on? And we're looking forward to see what that will unfurl for us.
Good. Awesome. Awesome.
Yes.
I think
You
with
just have to stay with it.
pure goodness and niceness.
Yes. Yeah, and again, just pray over your relationships, right? Declare good things over your life, your children, whoever it is. Love is all about, declare good things
Right.
over their lives, over your life, and so forth, and just see the goodness in them, even if it's your children or whoever, your spouse kind of going the wrong way. Pray for them and bring that good energy into the house, and find out what do you like and what I don't like. Find out what, the food. Do things for each other. Be an example of Christ. Be an example of love and compassion. I think we as women, sometimes we need that. Compassion is not always there, right? Because we want bam, bam, bam results. Yeah, big, strong man, you need to, so we have to just kind of, sometimes we need to go into ourselves and just bring that kindness, bring that love, bring that compassion, and just that will melt that heart for that man. Trust me, it'll melt it. So with that,
But uno know how and I love for wait.
huh?
Uno know how and I love for wait. We want the chair bill right now. I
Right.
climb up on the ladder and I get it done.
Right. Right. So yeah, it's a give and take. We need each other. We need each other. So let's continue to bring love in all of our relationships, love and respect in all of our relationships, and care, right? And so with that, we say, just God bless you all in your relationships, and just enough love and blessings. And I am going to continue. I've been having margaritas from about 4 o'clock today. So we've been all over the place, really enjoying the whole weekend. So, I have to just give thanks for my relationships and for my learning, because it's not easy, but it's a box. We have to fill it up. We have to do the work to fill it up with love and care and kindness and respect and romance and everything that we want. We have to do the work. And you can say, all right, wherever you go, you're going to have to do the work again in the next, So, hey. So with that, we want to just tell everyone, thank you for joining us for Caribbean Diaspora Vibes. We love you all. Have a beautiful weekend. God bless you on Valentine's weekend. We also want to say, shout out to it was Grenada Independence Weekend. That was on the 7th, I think, February 7th. Grenada Independence celebrated their independence. So big ups there, and we'll see you next week. Love and
I
bless.
would like to also send a happy birthday shout out to Sister Valentine Palmer, who's celebrating her 50th. And the party's gonna begin in about 5 minutes.
Ooh.
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you,
Blessings.
Pastor Ralston. Thank
Okay.
you.
My pleasure
Peace
being
and
here. Happy
blessings.
Valentine's to everybody.
The same
All
to you,
right.
Pastor.
Be
Thanks for
safe,
coming
Thank you.
everyone.
It's my
All right.
pleasure
God bless.
anytime.
Bye-bye.
on. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.